that was the reason we moved to California, was that Dad could work in the shipyard, and they thought it wouldn't be as hard on him as doing the landscaping and the bending over all the time and whatever. But he worked at the shipyards. I think it was even about a year after the war was over with. I imagine they had to finish up the things they started. But then he went back to being a landscape artist again, and Dad could do beautiful work. I mean, it was so much better than what other people. You look what someone else had done, and then you look what my dad did, and there was a noticeable difference. But I remember one time I went to work with him to help him out. Of course, I was only a kid. I guess I was probably 14 or so, maybe 12. And I thought I'd done such a good job. And I always had to get Dad's approval before, like, we'd sow the seed, that everything had to be leveled and all the rocks gone and everything. Anyway, I thought I did a nice job, and I went to get Dad to come look at my area to see if it was okay, and he just kind of smiled and patted me on the back. He said, "Doing good, KK," but he says, "Watch this," and he started using that rake, and before I knew it, he had a great big pile of rocks that I didn't see. I don't know where they came from, but he says, now, he says, see how flat and nice this is. He said, that's the way you want it to look before you sow your seeds, your grass seed. And anyway, my dad was a hard worker. He always worked between 12 and 16 hours a day. And I know it was hard for him because he had that arthritis so bad. And but he just was a hard worker, is all I can say about him. After my mom had died, like I said, that was one of the reasons we went to California. But my brother Bill was going with a girl named Evelyn Longardner, and they couldn't decide whether they wanted to get married before he was shipped overseas or afterwards, so they decided to wait. Bill thought, well, if I don't come home, you know. So they waited, and I might add, when we moved to California, there was a housing shortage. You couldn't find a house anywhere, and you had to put your name on a waiting list in what area you wanted to live in. And then when your turn come up, why, they'd show you the house they had, and if you wanted it, fine. If you didn't, that's all right too. So for 3 months, we lived in just a hotel room. My 2 brothers and my dad and Flo, Dan, and I. And they also had a rationing on certain kind of foods. Like, for instance, you could only buy, you had stamps that you had to show and spend with them when you, but also your money. But anyway, they would only allow you to have 3 eggs a week. A pound of coffee was rationed too. You could get that. My dad and brothers was both coffee drinkers. And sugar, you could, a certain amount of sugar you could get. Almost all of your food was rationed, and you could only get so much.
How come?
I guess, I don't know.
Just World War II?
I guess, yeah, during World War II, that's when we lived in the...
They was shipping it to the soldiers, or?
I imagine they took care of them first, you know.
Yeah.
But gas for your car, you could only allow so much, and you had to drive to work, you know, so you didn't have a lot to, of course we didn't have money to do entertainment stuff anyway. And anyway, us girls gave the eggs to the men to eat. And of course it was a hotel, not a motel, but it was a hotel we was staying at. and you wasn't supposed to have food in your rooms. And my dad bought like bread and bologna and things like that that you didn't have to cook and still allow us somewhat of a meal. And we had that, and soon after we moved out of the hotel into the home, that Clearwater, that we lived in. You could buy most any kind of food you wanted, and it wasn't rationed. Of course, Bill and Bob both come home from the Army, and so him and Grace got married, and Bill and Evelyn got married, and we always thought that was funny, saying that you married your sister, you know. And but anyway, they've always been happy together. I'm grateful for that.